Today, I'm going to talk about boxing and unboxing. Now, this is a pretty easy concept to understand, but people mess it up in interviews because they don't really understand what it's actually used for. Object oriented languages need to handle instances in a type agnostic manner. This is what's known as polymorphism. But the problem is that we have two distinct types: value types and reference types. So, for a moment, let's stop thinking in terms of types and let's start thinking in terms of species. The value species lives on the stack, and that's integer, bool, float. The reference species lives on the heap, and that's object and string. So, how do we maintain polymorphism when we have two different species or two different types? Well, it's simple. Let's take one of those types and put it in a box and pretend it's the other species. So forget about instance strings for a moment and think about fish and chicken. Fish and chicken are two different species, kind of like two different types. The fish species lives in the ocean and the chicken species lives on land. But what if we have to transport the fish with the chicken? Well, we could just put the fish in a water filled box and then we put it on a truck with the chicken. Essentially, the ocean based fish can ride in the truck just like a land based chicken because we boxed the integer species into an object species. When we get to our destination, we can unbox the fish and put it back in the ocean, or convert the object back to an integer. So why do you even need to do this? Well, back in the early days of .NET 1.0, you didn't have list of type T. You had array list, and that was pretty much it. So array list wasn't strongly typed. So you could do all sorts of crazy stuff. I mean, here's an integer, here's a string, here's an empty string, here's a boolean, here's a float, here's a null. Now these value types had to be boxed before they were put onto the array list. And then they were unboxed when they came back off the array list and you performed operations on them. I'm going to show you how to do that manually. So here's an integer, all right? I'm going to call it fish. I'm going to take this fish and I'm going to throw it into object fish in a box, all right? Now I can take this fish in a box and I can put it onto an array list or do whatever. When I want to take this fish out, I can just cast it back into an int, and now I have my unboxed fish. So boxing is taking that value species and converting it into a reference species temporarily. Unboxing is taking that reference species that you converted before and converting it back into the value species. Practice this concept in the mirror or with a webcam until you have it cold. Good luck on your next interview.